Men, and as usual, I use the term loosely. This engine, laying partially disassembled in front of you, as recently as this morning, was an entire engine. This is a customer's engine I'm rebuilding. I had gone through my usual process of assembling the bottom end, the cam gears and the oil pump, and then I spin the rods over just with my fingers with a source of oil hooked up to the inlet on the oil pump, which on this motor's up on the top over here, and cranking the engine over until I got flow coming out by the connecting rods. Worked great. Flow came up real quick. Quick inspection, and it wasn't leaking. Happy with that. Put the rest of the top end on. By the time I got done, there was a small puddle of oil under the oil pump. It looked like it was leaking out of this area right here, and it was leaking out of the head of the bolt that goes in here. So it was leaking out of the bottom pump around the head of this bolt. And I thought, what the hell? Of course, it's very frustrating. You're building a motor, something like that happens. And I assumed, of course, that I must have done something wrong. A gasket got torn or dislodged or kinked or something. Well, I took the oil pump apart, looked it all over very carefully, could find absolutely nothing wrong with the gaskets, the way they were installed. There was, no tears, no kinks, no rips. Looked like it should have been fine. And I got to looking at it real close, and I don't know if the camera will pick this up for you, but the metal around these two holes, and this is the oil feed hole, this is the oil return hole, is a little different consistency. I mean, it feels okay, but there's just something weird going on there. And then the metal around this hole also looked a little, a little uneven, like something was up with it. I wasn't sure what. And of course, this area right here is where it was leaking. And this area right here is adjacent to this screw. So any oil that were to come out of here would get into the, the hole on the oil pump where the screw is. And this, of course, is the pressure feed to the rest of the motor. So I got to do a little in-depth examining, and this is what I found. And I expect this is going to be almost impossible to pick up on camera, but I zero my depth gauge out on an area that looks unmolested and flat to me. I then put my depth indicator over the area that does look molested and not quite flat. And right now I'm about 2/1000 deep. So there's a little divot in here about 2/1000 of an inch deep. And I think it varies depending exactly where in that area I'm measuring from. So I'll move it around a little bit. 2/1000, about a half a thou, and about 2.5 thou. So let's check this area here. I got about 2 thou. I gotta make sure I'm not dropping in a hole there. Got about a half a thou. It's a little harder to get a good surface on this one. Boy, and actually right between the suction and the feed ports, or the suction and return ports, I'm coming up with about 4 thou. So this is the supply and this is the return. The last place you want oil transferring is between the supply and the return. I bet that could have caused all kind of weird problems. Let's check this one more way. I got one more idea to show you. We're going to paint this all up with a magic marker. That should be good. I have a machinist 123 block with a piece of, I think it's 320 grit sandpaper stuck to it with some double-sided tape. Let's just see what this turns up. And as I suspected, the marker in the low areas is not touched. This motor was polished at one time, and I believe they used, a high polished 8-inch buffing wheel. And when those buffing wheels hit a hole, they'll literally pull the metal away from around the hole. So I suspect this was buffed on a machined area. That's a no-no. This is the public service part of this little video here. Do not polish machine surfaces or you're going to end up with a problem like this. I'm going to get some fresh sandpaper and I'm going to go at this thing and I'm going to try to get it as flat as I can. I might be able to use, and I hate putting gaskets either of any kind of substance on an oil pump because it could get sucked in and you don't want that happening. But I might be able to fix this by judiciously applying sealer in the areas where the eroded metal is worse. But I'm going to try to flatten this out as much as I can using the machinist block and sandpaper technique. So let me get some fresh sandpaper on there and give it a try. Oh, one more note. I got paper towel stuffed in there so I don't get sanding, grit, and abrasive down inside the oil pump. I'm not really that much worried about it because this is the feed hole. It could be, this is the return hole. It could be blowing out from the top. This is the feed hole. It could be blowing out from the top. This hole right here actually vents right into this little area, the crankcase here, and this is where the oil gets sucked up into the suction side. And it comes out just right around this corner here. You can almost see it. And this hole over here is the feed to the engine, and it could be blown back through this hole down and out. So I could blow all of these out without blowing any chunks or abrasive or metal further into the motor. So let me get some fresh sandpaper on here and we're going to see what we can do with this. I've been doing this for 3 days now. Well, I exaggerate. Hour and a half probably. Started with coarse sandpaper. I'm down to 240. I started kind of randomizing the pattern. Because I had started out doing this, I was getting a lot of longitudinal scratches in there, so been working it over as a more random circular motion to smooth everything over and even. This actually has worked better than I thought it was going to work. I'm not quite all the way down to the bottom of these low spots, but I think I'm almost as far as I'm going to go. I'm going to do a little bit more, but I'm pretty much there, I think. You get the idea. Alright, I'm calling this good to go. Not quite perfect, but pretty damn good. Let's get our plugs out of here. That's what I was scared of. I just shoved one up in there. I've avoided compressed air because I don't want to blow grit or dust up in the cam cover, but I was intending to blow these off from the inside anyway. Successfully extracted. Let's blow out the bolt holes. Okay, I'm going to put the pump in, and I'm going to change the way I usually do it. Usually I stack the pump all up and just slide it in as one unit. But I'm going to do it a little different this time because I want to take some extra precautions about leaks in these areas. I got this surface as flat as I could reasonably get it. It's not quite perfect, but it's going to have to work. I just don't want to take any more metal off of there, and I don't want to spend any more time sanding it. So of course the first thing you got to do is get the screen in there, and of course it won't stay, but that's okay because we'll get it positioned and just hold it from the back side. So what I'm going to do different this time is this. I usually just do spray copper coat on these gaskets. I like to spray copper coat because you can put it on reasonably thick, yet you won't get so much on there that it'll clog up an oil passage. But what I'm going to do to keep these little boogers from leaking is this. I'm going to run a little bead around here. And I know what you're thinking, it's too much. But it's part of the master plan. I'm going to run a little bead around here, which is where it was leaking before. And a little bead around here. I don't know that it was leaking here, but we're going to put a little bead around it anyway. I'm going to take this gasket, just step outside. I'm going to spray it with copper coat sealer, and I'm going to put it on. I'll be right back. Okay, here's the coated gasket. Let's put it on. Fuck. I just hate these gaskets. They're just too fragile to deal with. Okay, I got it up over the threads. Let's get this little booger lined up. Hey, you suck. Okay, I got it where I want it. Let's slide this in. Oops, got it the wrong way. There we go. Cool. Okay, these screws are just barely tight, and the intention is it's going to force squeeze out around the holes that I surrounded. I'm going to get a Q-tip and go in there and clean the squeeze out. Now I know that these passageways will be unobstructed when I put the oil pump body onto the breather sleeve. Alright, let's clean the schmutz out of these holes. I probably don't need to be real concerned about this because this is the non-hardening Loctite that I use. But better safe than sorry. Alright, those look real good. Alright, let's put some more of this pump together. Get the screws out of the way. Okay, get them all in. Gently run them down. Tighten them kind of crisscross. And make sure the oil pump still turns. I'm good with that. Beautiful. Okay, and then you install your pinion gear. I had previously lined the timing mark up in the hole. So I just got to get the dot in the center of the cutout on the breather sleeve. Alright, that's got it. Very happy with that. Good deal. Throw some cams back in there, and I'll make up for all the progress I lost. Couple kind of closing notes. Do you have to be this careful in installing an oil pump? Maybe not this careful, but yeah, you do. You saw how fragile these gaskets are. You know, these gears are tiny. It's hard to get a key in. They can be prone to leaks, although I usually don't have a problem with them using this technique I use. And this is the spray shit I use. It works good. As it happens, I use the very last of it on the cover gasket, so I'm out now. Anyway, I am out of here. This is going to go back together again, and it's not going to leak this time.